Good evening. It is Monday, September 28th, 2020. It is 7 p.m. and I call to order the second Town Council meeting, Speedway Town Council meeting for the month of September. I'm David Lindsay, President of the Town Council. I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance and those watching at home. And we'll welcome our council members present with us this evening. To my immediate right, Councilor Eileen Fisher.
Good evening.
To my immediate left, Vice President of the Council, Vince Noblet.
Good evening.
To his left, Councilor Gary Rakes.
Good evening.
To his left, Councilor Gary Pettigo.
Good evening.
And joining us in social distancing in the audience is our town manager, Carlos May, clerk treasurer, Jacob Blaisdell, and our town attorney, Bob Clutter. Our agenda has been posted, which we will follow this evening. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 on our agenda is approval of the minutes of our September 14th meeting. Those have been distributed to the council. Are there any corrections or changes? Hearing none, those will be accepted as presented. With council's concurrence, since Chief Campbell has joined us for a second meeting this month, we're going to, if council approves, we're going to move his item up first tonight. Okay.
Concur.
Yes.
We will move item 7 up to now, which is approval of a police body cam contract. And I believe Carlos is going to present and the chief's going to assist.
Yes.
Carlos?
Thank you, councilors. So what this is body cameras for all the Speedway police officers. Obviously, the times that we're in right now necessitate a change. This is not only to protect the officers, but also the public and the citizens. Full transparency, everybody knows what's going on. The basic specifics of these is we're going to have these cameras for a total of 38 officers and 33 vehicles. The period of the agreement is going to be 60 months. All of the actual hardware is guaranteed for life, and there is no cost to the cloud storage, which is one of the biggest costs when it comes to police vehicles or body cams. And this company that we have selected is also the company that IMPD is using, and so we are actually able to get in kind of within their contract and get a much more favorable pricing than had we just kind of went off on our own and found our own company. So after a couple of months, Chief, of consultation between the company, obviously Police Chief Campbell and Assistant Chief Upchurch, this was the company that was designated as the right fit for us here in Speedway, and therefore we're bringing this to the council's attention so that we can adopt this and get our officers and the vehicles some cameras. Are there any questions from the councilors at this moment?
Actually, first we'll need a motion before any questions.
Mr. President, I'll move that we approve the body-worn agreement as presented.
I second.
It's been a motion and a second to approve the body camera contract as presented. Any questions from the audience? Any questions from the council?
Not a question as much as just a statement I think that I'd like to make. This is not something that I ever believed was necessary and is unfortunately necessary in today's society. I believe our police officers are honest, hardworking. Certainly they make mistakes, they're human, but with what's happened in our culture, around the country, et cetera, it's become necessary for those police officers in our town to defend them and to look into situations at the same time. So I fully support this and appreciate the hard work that's been done here. There's been a lot of conversation, a lot of research, and appreciate the chief and his department, what they've done, and yourself as well.
You're here.
Actually, before any more comments, Chief, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, between Carlos and Gary, I think I'm pretty much done here. But, I think in the past, we've looked at body cameras and, Councilor Rakes summed up with the minimal number of complaints or issues we've had and the cost, storage being the major expense. And then the technology kept changing. So I think body-worn cameras is recognized nationally as the premier body-worn camera company. There is no storage fees. It is highly technical. our CAD system will be wired into these cameras to where if an officer's dispatched, it'll turn on the camera. And, you know, the holster, if a gun comes out of a holster, the camera comes on. You know, if an officer's prone for over 10 seconds, it'll turn the cameras on and actually give a location. You know, and as Carlos mentioned, Lawrence, Fishers, you know, the departments all around us have gone to body cam through this utility company. You know, and the IMPD thing has saved us a lot of money, you know, by being able to piggyback on their system. And I think it's one of those, I too share that, you know, the vast, obviously highest percentage of officers probably don't need a body camera. You know, you either trust and have confidence in their actions or you don't. But, you know, in these days and times, this is another precaution that, you know, makes us even more transparent. And with that, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, this is a 5-year contract, correct?
It is a 5-year contract.
Okay. And just for the, I just took off my glasses before I did it. The cost of a contract, I think it's important for the public to know, is $326,515
$65,303 a
a
year.
year. Yes.
And, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
One other question I have is, the life of the product is 5 years. What happens to the product after that? Is
We'll
this
have to
actually a
either-
lease or a purchase?
Well, this is an agreement that they will update and upgrade changes in that period. At the end of the 5 years, we'll have to renegotiate a contract,
Start over.
start over.
Thank you.
And who knows where technology will be by then.
And the warranty on the equipment is for the 5 years.
That's the other, this company will replace anything that's damaged or, you know, has any technical difficulties. It's a pretty impressive maintenance and repair agreement, which is, again, key to this kind of technology. You know, the body camera itself is a cell phone. You know, they'll fit inside the uniform and basically, you know, have a gauntlet or something that you'll be able to see out with the camera. They're replacing uniforms, I think 5 per officer, jackets, anything, you know, the exterior vests, you know, which again is at no expense except within the contract. And that in and of itself is a major expense.
And this is just on all of our patrol, no detectives?
Our detectives will have body cameras because they work uniform, you know, the 500s, so if you're in a uniform, you'll have a body camera.
Also including school?
The school resource officer will. You know, the only exceptions will be me, Assistant Chief Upchurch, and Captain Deerdorf. And you can fire us, so a body camera's not going to help me. But again, that was done a little bit to save costs and, you know, giving it to the people that need it.
Well, I'd like to kind of go on along with what Gary said, and obviously I've got a soft spot for our public safety. This includes fire as well, but this is something that I think it's important to know, and I think when people move to Speedway, you hear schools and you hear because they're safe. Mm-hmm. And that's because of what you and your department does, what our fire department does for us. And this is to protect the officers, and also to go and protect the citizens as well. And I think that's important to note, that a lot of residents in this town, I think a vast majority, love our police department and the work that you and your department do. I think that's
I
important.
tell our guys that every day.
Yep.
Yep. Again, we thank you for that.
Keep telling them it's true.
Anything else?
No.
All right. If no other comments, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the police body cam contract as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0.
I'm done here. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is appointments to Speedway boards and commissions, and we had this item added as we have one position open on the redevelopment authority, that our SRC is doing some work, as they always do, and this requires an appointment to that board. Do I have any nominations this evening?
Mr. President, I'll nominate Ricky Woodlock, and I would also move that we close the nominations.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second to appoint Ricky Woodlock to the redevelopment authority this evening. Any questions from the audience? Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of appointing Ricky Woodlock to the redevelopment authority signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you, council. Next is ordinance 1329. This is a second reading. An ordinance amending the town code of Speedway Chapter 7.05, which relates to animal licenses. Carlos?
Yes, so as you stated, Counselor, this is the second reading. In essence, it accomplishes two items. The first is it eliminates the $3 pet registration fee, but more importantly, and the kind of the thrust for revamping this entire one, is the adoption fee paid by everyday citizens versus a designated animal rescue or nonprofit group. This will allow now us to not charge officially a designated animal rescue group within Speedway that chooses to go to the street department, pick up one of the animals, and then go through the process of readopting it out to the standard citizen. Now, if someone from the town or anywhere just decides as an individual to come in, they obviously still need to pay that adoption fee, but we would then have a designated animal rescue group, but we have a MOU with them once this is approved in the final reading, and then now that organization will not have to pay the fee as they are, in essence, taking on the work that our street department currently does.
Mr. President, I move that we approve ordinance 1329 as presented to us for second reading.
I'll second it. Second.
There's been a motion, a second, and a third to approve ordinance 1329 on second reading this evening. Any comments from the audience? Questions from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1329 this evening on second reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Carlos, if you can stay there.
Sorry, I was grabbing the next item.
That's okay. Item 6 on our agenda is approval of a contract with the Indiana Department of Transportation. Carlos?
So in essence, this is a contract that allows us to continue to have the signage off of the interstates, the brown signs that point and say, you know, IMS this way, Speedway this way. And it's just a contract that apparently was put into place years ago. The individual at the state who was running this program retired and failed to get it out in a timely manner. And so I then received it just recently, but of course time is of the essence on this so that we can maintain the signage off of the interstate to show folks that, yes, we in the IMS are in fact located where we're located. And that is the entirety of this contract. It was reviewed by our legal counsel, standard INDOT contract with municipalities, and so we just need to make sure that we can get this passed, signed, and keep our signage up.
Great. I move that we approve the INDOT contract for signage.
Second?
Been a motion and a second to approve the INDOT contract as presented. Any questions from the audience? Just for clarification, I believe this is just for the motor speedway signage, correct? This is not for the town?
Correct, and there are 5 different locations where these signs are going to be put. I'm happy to read you the exact specifics if you'd like, but.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the contract with INDOT signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Carlos, you now get a rest.
Yes.
Our next item on the agenda is approval of a municipal advisory services agreement. Our clerk treasurer, Jacob Blaisdell, will present
Yeah, I
this.
thought we'd have a scheduled break in here for Carlos. Yeah, thank you. So this is an agreement to have Bondry Consulting serve as our municipal advisor on the sewer transaction. You'll recall that we passed the ordinance at the last meeting to move forward with that process. Bondry is kind of as a leap of faith have already been assisting us with the transaction. We had a call with S&P this morning on the ratings process. Bondry is, it's a smaller firm, but it happens to also be a minority and veteran-owned business. And as I said, they've been helping us and doing a tremendous job for us there. So I appreciate your formal approval of this agreement.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve this agreement as presented by our clerk treasurer.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the Municipal Advisory Services Agreement as presented. Any questions from the audience? Questions from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the Municipal Advisory Services Agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Item 8 on our agenda is approval of an IT contract for the Speedway Municipal Center, or the Government Center, or the new Town Hall, or whatever we're going to call it.
We'll come up with a name shortly. But yes, as part of the move over into a new building, the fact that most of our departments are in various buildings and now we're consolidating all into one, we do need to have an assessment done on all of the IT needs to bring us up to spec. A lot of the stuff that we have had in the past in the various buildings it's just out of date. It's old. It does need to be updated and replaced. This would allow one company, a minority-owned company, to come in, make sure that they give us a full analysis of our needs, and from there we can then proceed to the next phase, which is obviously the implementation of the assessment done. We will need to make sure that this is done professionally. This company has experience in these exact precise types of moves with other municipalities around Indiana, and as such, we felt that they were kind of the best to start with. So that is the agreement.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion that we approve the IT contract for our new municipal center, working with Sonday Solutions as presented by our town manager.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second to approve the IT contract with Sunday Solutions this evening. Any questions from the audience? Questions or comments from the council?
What's the time frame on this contract?
If possible, I'd like to bring up the representative from Sondy Solutions. He can ask, or he can answer any specific questions. This is Jeff Rader from Sondy Solutions.
All right, Jeff, good to see you.
Good evening.
Thanks for having us here and your faith and interest in bringing us in to help out. As Carlos said, this is something we do for municipalities around Indiana, and looking forward to share our services with you all. So in terms of the time frame, we are anxious to get started with you all. We know there's time frame for getting the building framed out and finished the way you need to, but for us to come in and be able to identify what technology and where within that building will be kind of the critical time frame. But as part of that, it's talking about the overall vision for where all you want to take IT as well as all the staff and departments to understand those real needs. So we are going to be reaching out very quickly to Carlos to schedule that meeting and meetings with leadership to understand that and be able to present back to you.
Okay, so you feel like you have plenty of time to do the job correctly in the frame that we're talking about moving in?
Absolutely, yeah. We understand the need and very anxious to get started so we can make sure we have the time to get everything done that you're going to want to look at.
Okay. That's all I got.
Great. Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the IT contract with Sunday Solutions signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you.
Grab the next one.
Yes. Item 9 on our agenda is approval of a lawn mowing contract. Carlos?
This is a contract for the remainder of this season with Ventures USA, another minority-owned company. It is for two specific things. It's the ditch trimming and the trail brush cutback. Now, the reason for this is twofold. Currently, our street department does the mowing for these two items. Due to the time requirements to mow these, they have not been able to get out to the streets and do a lot of the maintenance that needs to be done on signage, painting, and whatnot. In conjunction with that, there is also a price savings to the town, not just in terms of the man hours for our street department, but the actual labor costs that it would cost our guys to go out there and mow. In addition to the time, this would save us approximately $2,500 in that manpower component. but then you have the intangible benefits, obviously, of the timing that they do not need to spend doing this, that they can get out there and maintain the streets as we need them to, and as they have been unable to just due to the nature of this year. And that is it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the lawn mowing contract as stated by the town manager.
I second.
That is with Ventures USA.
Correct, Ventures USA.
Then a motion, a second, to approve the lawn mowing contract with Ventures USA. Any questions from the audience? Questions from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the lawn mowing contract with Ventures USA signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10 on our agenda is approval of claims and utility adjustments from our clerk treasurer. Jacob?
Thank you, Mr. President. So the claims that have been presented in front of you represent claims received from September 12th through September 25th. I'll be happy to take any questions. We'll get your approval.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the claims presented to us by clerk treasurer.
I'll second it.
And a motion and a second to approve the claims for September 12th, 2020 through September 25th, 2020 by our clerk treasurer. Any questions from the audience? Questions from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the claims as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Jacob?
Yeah, just have a couple of very minor utility adjustments, actually small clerical errors that were made by the company that does our lockbox processing, just kind of misapplied a couple of amounts. But even though they're very, very small, they do technically need to be approved, so would appreciate your approval on those.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the adjustments presented to us by clerk treasurer.
I'll second it.
And a motion, a second to approve the utility adjustments as presented. Any questions from the audience? Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the utility adjustments as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Anything to report this evening? Jacob?
Nothing really, just thanks to the volunteers that came out for Speedway Home Helpers. We weren't able to have it in the spring, but we kind of arranged and did social distancing and everything else to do it safely here in the fall. Actually, Councilor Noblin and I got to work on the same project Saturday, so just appreciation for all the volunteers that came out for that. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is report from our town manager, Carlos May.
Councilors, so far, this has been a very hectic and busy month. Obviously, we got budget season coming up next month, and as we had the need for 2 different meetings this month, there's obviously been a lot of movement. Most of it has been very good. Obviously, IMS has stated that the state and the county allowed them to have 10,000 spectators to go into IMS, and that'll be happening next weekend. So that should be a nice little bump to the town businesses that were unable to have spectators for the Indy 500. The 25th and High School intersection is now open, so I just wanted to let the town be aware of that. Everything else is trucking on smoothly. Department heads are working efficiently. We've had no real major issues or negatives. Everything seems to be fairly positive and moving in the right direction. Obviously, next month we'll be finalizing the budget, and at that point in time, it'll be time to gear up for the move into the new building, and hopefully we can have a name selected by then. If the council has any suggestions, certainly let me know. But other than that, all is well in the town of Speedway.
Great. Thank you, Carlos.
I wanted to ask, are there any changes to any parking that citizens must know about, or is?
Well, here I would ask for a concurrence from the council for basically the need to have, in speaking with the police chief, to answer your question directly, they don't anticipate any need to actually enforce the ordinances of no parking during race seasons, but that requires a concurrence from you to basically waive that. As far as I have been told by IMS, they are sending anyone and everyone who is interested about parking or talking about parking to the Lions Club. And they're I'm sorry, not the Lions Club, the American Legion, my mistake. And they are the ones going to be handling all the parking. So there should be no need to close down our streets for the no parking that would normally be in place.
So with that being said, he Counselor Noblet jumped ahead to an item I was going to give on my report.
Oh.
So can we have the council's concurrence to waive the parking restrictions for this coming up race weekend?
I concur.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right.
Do we know what gates are going to be open for that race? I mean,
1 and
just-
9.
I'm sorry,
1 and 9.
1 and 9? Okay.
Probably 2. Well, 2 as well, maybe.
I can find out directly from
Okay.
Doug.
I'm sure we'll push that out have Kelly.
Yes,
That's
yeah,
all.
that, once I get that information from IMS President Doug Bowles, sorry, I just said Doug, then I'll send that off to Communications Director so she can disperse that to the town.
So they plan on bringing all those people up North Auburn? Is that the route that they'll be going to the Legion, the park? Is that what?
The Legion has not told me what route they're choosing to take. I can certainly find out and make the council aware of that within a day or two.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is a report from our council members, and we will begin with Counselor Gary Pettigo.
Well, kind of a short and sweet list tonight. Just want to remind everybody that next Monday, which is October 5, is the last day that you have to register to vote if you haven't done so already. Along the same lines, still a great need for poll workers. So if you have some time on your hands come November 3, I know both parties can use some help in that regard. Gleaners, the National Guard, who's been helping as a volunteer group for most of the pandemic, actually pulls out of Gleaners on September 30. So as of October 1, Gleaners is relying strictly upon just public volunteers. So if you're interested there, go to gleaners.volunteerhub.com. And finally, please shop in Speedway and buy in Speedway.
Great, thank
That's
you.
it.
Next is Counselor Gary Rakes.
I would echo what Gary Pettigo described. I would also just note that our relationship with our restaurants and other businesses in Speedway, in particular those on Main Street, is fantastic, and it's because we work hand in hand with them. Barricades that were put up last, I don't know if that was May or what the timing of that was, but it was a joint effort for kind of joint thought for putting those there. There's been questions in the public about whether we're going to take those down. We're extending them as long as we possibly can, while the weather's nice enough to be able to eat outdoors and so forth. And to Gary's point, please frequent the restaurants and the businesses in Speedway. It's vital that they have the local business and then visitors that come to our town, whether it's 10,000 this weekend for the Fall Harvest Indy Grand Prix on Friday or Saturday, and the 8-hour endurance race on Sunday. A lot of those folks will come and go. They won't necessarily stop at the restaurant. So if you have the opportunity this weekend, make those restaurants as busy as you possibly can and the other retailers. And that's all I have to report.
Great, thank you. Next is Counselor Eileen Fisher.
So I won't recover what they just did. However, I will say that since 25th Street has opened up there at High School on 25th, that light has been a tremendous help, I believe. It'll be nice. I don't know, Tim's not here tonight to give us a report on when they're going to open up the other lanes, but that will definitely make that traffic run a little bit smoother in that section. Carlos, do you know if Indy Metro has been aware, notified, because I still see the buses going down Parkwood.
Tim should have notified them when it opened, and since it just opened this week, I don't know if they have reviewed that or gotten back to him yet, but that's something I can find out tomorrow. But I do know that he had reached out to let them know that, hey, it's open now.
It does, in my opinion, though, I feel that it's very tight in there with the median added and everything, so it'll be interesting to see how that runs with those buses along that route. Just, you drive that area,
Yeah.
I'm sure, so.
And also, we still have the no parking restrictions in there along the park
The
and
park.
on Hollister, or
Okay.
no, on Hickorywood as well,
yeah.
so. Something to look, for them to come out and review for sure.
Yep. I'll get it done.
That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Next report is from our Vice President of our council, Vince Noblet.
I just want to give everybody an update on that Run 317 event that we had in town. I was surprised. It was a big success. I mean, they had over 1,000 runners signed up to run. And even though it was kind of cold and chilly and everybody had, social distancing going on, Had over 400 and some people show up to run that evening. They did a great job of organizing it. And I want to thank, the chief has already left, but I want to thank him and his crew for putting together a successful event. If you think about it, shutting down one lane of 10th Street, Lyndhurst, 16th Street, Poco, I mean, we had a lot of traffic dispersed out there. And we had a tremendous amount of supporters that helped out and making sure that runners stayed in their lanes and drivers stayed in their lanes, and it became a very successful event. Lions Club took in like $1,500 for that event, and it's going to go right back into the community where it started. I also want to thank Norm. I got around to back on touring different departments to learn a little bit more about what's going on, and kudos to his group. They do a great job at the wastewater treatment plant, keeping the facility in running top-notch shape, and kind of opening my eyes to how much is involved with handling the town's waste, and they do a super job making sure that it's done right, and continue to support. I think that all that crew there needs really applause from the town council because of the work that they do. The other thing is that again, Jacob helped put together, and I think it was Shaq and CDC did the home helpers, and helped out on 2 houses on Saturday. One on 16th and one on 30th, and the people were really grateful that the number of people that showed up there to help to handle it. We moved a lot of dirt and cleared a lot of brush that they weren't able to get that squared away. But again, support the restaurants in Speedway. They need our help now more than ever. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. And the final item is my report. Just a couple things, since I just check off what the rest of the councilors say, so I don't have to. One item, I've had a couple residents in town that have called me about the repaved streets that we're redoing, Elaine, DeSoto. There's some, and they have some questions about the work that's been done. I spoke to our street commissioner today, Rob Wetnight, and Rob is making a punch list. They are not complete with the work there. So there's some, maybe some concrete work that they'll have to go back and do, and some other work that needs to be done. So just want to let the public know that it may look like it's paved and the crews have left, but they are going to come back to make sure things are the way that we and the way Rob wants them to be. And please don't forget race week, this race weekend coming up. I think it's important. I think it's exciting that we're going to have fans going into the track. So, and then please, I know it's already been said, but please visit our Main Street restaurants, other restaurants in town. Just a reminder that we fall under the city's mayor and since he is the executive of the county, we have to follow his orders from the Marion County Health Commissioner and the department on their rules. We have to abide by those. And it's important that our businesses and our restaurants in town get our full support during this time. So please, when you're hungry, instead of cooking at home, go out and instead of eating in at a restaurant, I think I'd take it to go. So that's my suggestion for the week. So with that, I have nothing further to report. We will adjourn the meeting at 7:34.